So my last words of advice to you, if you're listening, is aim higher. And the reason you aim higher, even though it's a little bit more scary, is because most people don't aim higher and the middle is crowded.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the CEO of Xponential, Christian Ray Flores. He helps clients make 4 key shifts: fuel, speed, resistance, radar. We'll be talking more about building holistic success in 7 key dimensions. Christian, so excited to have you on. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I am very well, Chris. Very excited to be speaking to you.
Thank you so much. We always like to ask our guests, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. What were you doing before, and how did that kind of lead you into what you're doing today?
Okay, so my answer might be a little confusing, but maybe I'll start with what I do today. So the main 2 things is we do essentially brand development, brand strategy, and media. On one end, it's called Third Drive Media. And then on the other end, I do high performance coaching. My very first professional success was in music. I've changed 5 different adjacent, but not the same professions, careers. And I was in music. I was in Eastern Europe. I was a very popular artist, pop artist there. And that is a massive jumpstart on quality on media. You learn personal brand, you learn video, you learn all kinds of things, distribution, sales, negotiations, things like that. So this was a long time ago. And that basically evolved eventually. I did a production company in LA. We did music videos and music development for artists. And that was a lot of fun. That was that sort of a natural outgrowth of the music career, right? We sort of evolved into supporting businesses and basically brand development, brand strategy, startups, tech startups, influencers, people like that. So that's that track. Does that make sense so far, Chris?
Absolutely. That is a really cool history about the music, because kind of similar for me. That's how that experience came to be and launched into something different.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So it evolves, right?
Yes, absolutely.
The coaching part was interesting because I was playing sports arenas, right? I was a big artist. And I realized that just being maybe in the 0.5% musically is not enough, actually, either to make you happy or actually sustain success. So there's all kind of character issues, emotional self-regulation, relational skills that I just lacked. And as a high achiever, I was at the very peak of my career, like clinically depressed. And that's when I met my first coach. He was this Canadian missionary, and I was sort of introduced to him through like a mutual acquaintance and ended up going out for pizza. I was having dinner with him and his family. And I just looked at him and I'm like, you have something I don't have. How do I get it? And he took me under his wing, and I luckily listened to him, and it changed my life. In fact, I was like 26 years old. Most high achievers, most people that have this drive to get something done, to build something, to go somewhere, to write, to produce, to build companies, businesses, etc. That drive almost always comes with a flat side that is significant. And if they don't fix that flat side, you usually burn out, you hit a wall, and sometimes you recuperate, sometimes you don't. But at the very least, you are limited in how high you can fly and how long you can do it. So I feel I was like, just because I found somebody who can complement, who has the strengths that I don't have, and that person can coach me, I can go higher and further. Yes, thank you very much. And I sort of dug into all of that whole topic and learned how to do that and started coaching people. And it's a passion of mine because I just love people. I love people that are up to stuff, and I want them to do well. And I know how to help them really well. It's a gift plus a developed skill, let's put it that way. It is a gift in the sense that you have a passion for something. You don't know where it came from, but you have it. It's sort of like that with me.
Yes. And sometimes those opportunities are presented to us. We don't know how the universe put us in that position. But I too myself had a mentor that did bigger things, and I wanted that similar lifestyle. And they taught me about those things, and that inspired me to do even more. So it's really cool to hear very similar instances with that. That is so incredible.
Yeah, it's very cool. I really enjoy doing that.
That is excellent. Now, tell us more about the framework, because you're helping people through coaching. Who is this for? Do you work with a certain type of audience? And then how are you helping them through?
I work with professionals that are up to stuff. And it could be, my clientele ranges between a young executive in a finance firm or real estate to a pastor, to an artist, to an athlete, and all the way up, let's say, to people who are managing a lot of money for other people, people who are doing big business. So there's a range of people, but I think the common thread is that these are highly ambitious people. And they tend to have a certain set of strengths and a certain set of weaknesses. And I know what those things are and know how to bring the best out of them so they can actually achieve more than they think they can. And I know how to help them calibrate and develop these habits and lifestyle changes that will sustain success for a long time and actually maximize success. So that's about the audience and the people that I work with. When it comes to the framework, the long-term framework is just, if you're in an inner circle capacity with me, it's just having my attention and doing life with me, and I will know everything about you and become essentially your counselor, your advisor, basically, in life. But I think the entry point is usually through establishing certain pillar habits and pillar skills, which basically qualifies you to even work with me long-term. And the four things that I talk about, this is what you're alluding to, is the first one called fuel. And basically this idea is, what is it that motivates you specifically? Not just in broad strokes, are you aspirational? Are you this? Are you that? No, it's very concrete. When you get up in the morning, are you fueled by creativity or anxiety or fear, all of the above? And usually it's a mix. But if you want to be a high performer, you need to run on high level fuels, basically, right? The second is sort of the speed you move in and the direction you move in. Momentum is a really important piece. Momentum is what gives you confidence. It's what gives you an emotional sort of state of, we're going somewhere. And I find that the people that I work with, they usually do really, really well for a period of time. And then something happens. And it usually has to do with an increased complexity, with goals that change. What they change, the world changes, complexity changes. There's much more pressure. What used to be fun is not fun anymore, or their preferences or values have changed. And you hit this plateau and you just stop moving. You either move very slowly or you go in circles or you just stop. And the second pillar is, I need you moving and I need you to build momentum, some speed. Speed matters. A direction matters. That's the second thing. The third one is called resistance. And it's basically anytime you want to move somewhere, you want to go higher in anything, finance, skill, mastery, scale, whatever. Anytime you gain momentum, you gain speed, you're going to have things attack you from the inside and from the outside. I call that resistance. I think that comes from Stephen Pressfield, if I'm not mistaken. The War of Art. It's one of my favorite books. I don't know if he borrowed that term or he came up with it, but that's where I learned it, resistance. And resistance does not discriminate. You can be the most accomplished person on the planet and you will have self-sabotage, you'll have self-doubt, you'll have days that are just rough. And you don't know how to navigate those things. And basically my goal is to teach you how to not eliminate it, because you won't be able to. Everybody deals with it. It's a very primal thing. But to be victorious over it consistently, reliably. The fourth pillar is essentially the long-term strategy. And the idea there is sort of these 7 dimensions of life that are all research shows, and also personal experience and life experience shows that these are the things that you have to figure out one way or another, hook or crook. You need to score high along 7 dimensions and you'll do really well long-term. And it's fascinating how somebody can be really doing well on paper, but if I ask them to score themselves along those 7 dimensions, and I can tell them how vulnerable they are, how much risk they have, and are they going to do well long-term or not. It's pretty cool.
I absolutely love that framework because it really covers everything that speaks to this audience, the things that they deal with, the lack of clarity, the anxiety. We need that direction. The momentum helps. The action creates more confidence, and all these things help. You're like, oh, wow, is that what it took to finally feel better and get my head in the right space? But that is exactly how you help people.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why there's these core pillars. Like, you have to figure these 4 things out. And then we work long-term to just get those things at a higher level, master those things, right? But those are essentials, because without those things, you're probably not going to do well, basically.
Absolutely. I'm feeling better already, and I haven't even actually gone into analyzing it. Just knowing that there's something there provides a lot of clarity and direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you mind going more into the 7 key dimensions? Did you go into that already yet?
No, I haven't actually. I just mentioned it. As I said, I call that exponential radar. You know the story about the Titanic? It's like the unsinkable ship. I love that because the analogy is very similar to like a high achiever. You might be like flying high, you're an executive or something, you're earning 6 figures, and you're just crashing it. And they were very self-confident. And the sea was smooth and it was just no wind, no storm, nothing. But what they didn't know is that they were going towards an iceberg. And what they didn't have is a radar. As a matter of fact, they're so confident that the guy who like sits on the tower, he wasn't even using binoculars. And I find that to be a great analogy to people who are just very professionally successful. You have no idea what's coming across beyond the horizon. And you can be so self-confident. And then when that thing hits you and sinks you, you're surprised. But if you think about it, what if they had radar technology back then? There wouldn't be an accident, period. That just wouldn't happen. So that's basically the function of this particular thing. That's why I call it a radar. It's a long-winded way to say it. And it's basically 7 dimensions, and we score ourselves, and we do it over and over again during our conversations. And it's all Fs so that you can remember it quickly. Okay, well, you know what we'll do, Chris? Are you comfortable enough to just self-assess on the spot live?
I think we could.
You sure?
Yeah. Sounds like, put me in a very uncomfortable position, but that's what post-editing is for, right?
Yeah, post-production is a beautiful thing. Okay, so I'll pull something out real quick so that I can have a cheat sheet of my own because I have a bunch of scores here in front of me. We have this assessment online.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah, and it's amazing because it's free. We use it with our clients, but I provide it for free.
A lot of the times with like those self-assessments, people tend to be a bit more vulnerable, like if they're trying to speak truthfully.
Yeah. The thing is, when people come for a strategy call, I have to ask them all those questions. And it takes a long time. But if they do the assessment ahead of time, I have the picture right in front of me of their lives, like right there. I don't have to ask any of those questions. And it's a really cool tool. You know what? I can't find the thing that I was going to find, but I'll give it one more attempt.
No worries. Take your time. That's why I block off the full hour. I record 15 to 30, but leave some wiggle room. Whether that's chatting for a half hour before or after, or we want to take things off the record for a moment, that's cool too.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. Okay, we'll just wing it. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And basically, all I want you to do is to answer first thing that comes to mind and rate yourself between a 1 and 10. Easy enough, right? You ready?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. How would you rate yourself 1 to 10 on faith, spiritual practices, whatever it means to you?
1 to 0.
1 to 0. Okay, so low. Family, nuclear family, mom and dad, siblings, wife, girlfriend.
7.
Friendships.
7 or 8.
Which is your meaningful work. That's what it means.
About a 5 or 6.
Okay. How about fun?
7.5.
How about finances?
Feeling good? About an 8.
How about health, fitness, nutrition, things like that?
7.
Good. So basically, that's it. It's very simple. And obviously, you can go into depth, but the first reaction, hey, this is how I feel about myself. And on the surface is super simplistic, but it's profoundly significant when it comes to your trajectory in life. So with you, the only low score, and maybe that's because you either are culturally not in that space or whatever, the only low score is faith. The reason why faith is important, and this is, by the way, Harvard research, it's not really religious studies, but it's what people find, is that if you have a transcendent practice, it can be a contemplative practice, that increases your level of accomplishment, joy, you're healthier, wealthier, all of that. So that's the only low thing. Everything else is above 5, most of it. And I think that gives you a very stable situation. So you're doing well, you're probably going to do better and better, and you're not very vulnerable. Nothing catastrophic will happen to you. When obviously something can happen, you can be hit by a car, but you know what I'm saying, right? Self-inflicted. So if somebody has 1 under 5, that's not a big deal because everything else is high. And I would advise you look into contemplative practices that you can practice because it will help you elevate your overall score and the dimensionality of your success, of your health. If somebody has 2 or 3 lows that are under 5, let's say family, friends, and force, you are in bad shape. You're in very bad shape. It's a crisis. You need to do something about it immediately. If you have 1 or 2, you're okay. If you have 3 that are low, you should hear the alarm bells. If you're between a 7 and an 8 across the board, you can do really well. And it doesn't matter if you can have obstacles, you're not going to have problems. You can do really well long term. Does that make sense? What do you think?
That is really cool. I love that assessment. And it was quick and painless. And compared to what I thought it could be, like, oh no, you unzipped me. But it was great self-assessment. It kind of outlined what you should look for. And these are the red flags you really need to watch out for if it gets below this point.
Yeah. And because it's easy to remember, it's just 7 Fs, faith, family, friends, force, fun, finances, and fitness. You can sort of hardwired it into your brain. We usually just fill out paper until it gets like it becomes second nature, and you discuss it in coaching and stuff like that. And it's incredible. It really is incredible. On the surface, it goes, wow, that's pretty basic. It's not basic. It's actually magical, because you know what you need to work on, and you start improving that, and you can see almost like a chain reaction, a domino effect, affecting all areas of life, because you're a multidimensional being. High achievers emphasize one area over another. And usually it's work over relationships. So usually faith, family, friends is middle to low. And then fitness, finances, force is high. Sometimes fun as well, like depending on if you're a party person or not. But that's basically the lopsided side of high achievers. And what happens is you can end up making $1 billion and be divorced twice by the time you do that. Your kids grow up, they resent you, and you find yourself very wealthy and extremely miserable and unfulfilled. That's what happens.
Absolutely. Now, do any of the Fs carry more weight or importance than the other ones?
Yes, the first 4. Faith, family, friends, and force. These are studies that show transcendent experience. And the reason for the transcendent experience, because why is that important? Why is that even in the top 4? It's because if you are the center of your universe, you are very limited by definition. If you start living for something greater than yourself, and you start contemplating life as not being about you, but what is the meaning of all of this? How do I fit in? What is my moral role? What is my legacy? You start elevating the frequency of your thinking. So that's sort of the faith piece. Family, it's because it is the only thing that actually matters in the long run. Like on your deathbed, you will never regret not spending more time with your family. And there's actually statistics about that too, right? People regret not spending enough time with the family and working too much. That's what they regret on their deathbed. On tactically, short term, the family is the ultimate de-stressor. But guess what? You need to get the skills to build a good and healthy family, especially a good marriage. Who you marry is literally the number one thing that determines your happiness, wealth, and health. Do you have the skills to marry the right person? Do you have the skills to nurture that marriage into a long-term success? If you do that well, that elevates all other areas of your life, including your professional capabilities. Because if you are daring great things, building big things, you need somebody at home who loves you unconditionally, will talk you off the ledge, will tell you that you're loved regardless, will be there for you regardless of your performance, because most high achievers, they have big failures as well on the way. And it's sort of the same thing, slightly more, it's more adjacent, but friendships are the same thing. People are very lonely. And the quality of your friends actually determines the quality of your thinking. So nurturing a long-term relationship with the right people that are high-quality people, massive. And then lastly, the force part, which is meaningful work. If you do meaningless work, you're not going to be motivated to excel, to grow, to do hard things, to get to higher planes, etc. So if your work is meaningful, there's more to it than just the paycheck. It just enhances everything. So those are the most important ones.
I absolutely love that. So with you being in business and these connections to start that kind of launched you into where you are today, what's been the most effective marketing strategy for you? Are you just building relationships, running some ads, doing content, a little bit of everything, or is there an outlier?
I mean, it really depends on who you are. I think for me, it's relationships and content. Because first of all, I love creative content. I'm pretty good at it. And I've been in front of the camera for most of my life, essentially, since I was like 25. So with a bunch of subscribers, social, so I don't really work on social. I have an assistant who just chops down my bigger content into smaller content. But I think X is my favorite one because it's just mostly words, and it forces you to be brief in your insights. So content is my preferred way to market. Also, it's the least salesy one, right? Because all you're doing is adding value to people's lives.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with the idea of providing value and building relationships, nurturing them through value instead of being spammy and salesy. That's not fun for anybody.
No, it's more inspiring, I think. What we're doing now is marketing. And the cool thing is that all I'm doing is sharing the best things I know that can help somebody. It resonates and they go, man, this guy's good. Maybe I should give him a call, that kind of thing. So, well, at the very least, I can take notes and implement it.
Absolutely. So it's just starting now to be 2025. What are you looking forward to? Do you have any bigger goals that you're working on? Anything new and exciting coming out? Or are you just doing more of the same amazing stuff you're currently doing?
I just released the book. This is actually my first book, and I've written 2 more and I've shelved both of them, but they were more like creative exercises. So this one's called Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America. And it's sort of a passion project because it's not directly related to my business at all, but it's sort of my contribution to the national conversation. And it was born out of my excitement about the United States as an immigrant. So I married an American. I grew up in 6 countries, 4 continents. This is my 6th country, literally. So I've had insane stories and experiences throughout my life, some of them pretty dramatic and bad. And I married an American and lived in Europe for a long time. And then we moved here with my 3 children. And being an immigrant gives me this fresh perspective on, I'm objective more than you are, right? If you're an American, because I come from the outside. And I studied economics. I have all these other layers that almost like these lenses that I wear. So I would tell my wife how amazing this country is from all these angles. And she kept saying, you have to write this down. These are really good insights. So eventually I caved. I hesitated for a while because I knew it's immediately perceived as political, but it's not political actually. And I thought there's so much negativity about this country. And it's an amazing country. And if I can just add a little splash of positivity, that wouldn't hurt. So that's why I wrote the book. So it's like the most exciting thing for me this year because it's new and I'm doing a lot of guest podcasting. And every time I go on, I usually say, hey, check it out on Amazon because it's actually really good. I'm really proud of it.
That is very cool. Both one for the passion project that it kind of brought you this excitement, but also I think a book like that would be well received by many people. We have too much division right now. The propaganda kind of separates us. So to get that through a different lens, a more objective viewpoint is very welcome in this country. We need more of it. I think communication can help improve a lot of the situations that we're in. So very excited to check that out. You'll have to send me a link for that and we'll put that in the show notes as well. Where else can people find out more about you and connect with you online?
They can come, or you can come, I'm talking to the audience, to christianrayflores.com. It's my newsletter. I highly recommend it. I put a lot of work into it. And it's basically weekly posts on success and significance and how they interplay with each other. Because I believe people go, well, it's success and significance. I would say no, real success only comes from significance. So how do you develop both and how do you marry both? And that's basically my passion. So it drops every Sunday, every Wednesday. There's a free version, there's a paid version, but it's really cool. There's all kinds of sort of benefits and things like that. I try to shower my subscribers with love and gratitude.
That's fantastic. And we'll have those links available down in the description, show notes, so everyone can get connected here. Christian, wanted to open the floor to any imparting wisdom you want to share with our audience here. We appreciate you coming on. Any last words of advice?
That's a good question. Okay, so my last words of advice to you, if you're listening, is aim higher. And the reason you aim higher, even though it's a little bit more scary, is because most people don't aim higher and the middle is crowded.
Very well said, Christian. We appreciate all of your tips and tricks and sharing your wisdom with us today. We'll have to have you on for a part 2 sometime in the future to let us know how everything is going. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Chris, thank you.